What's going on, everyone? My name is SiahZ, and welcome back to another update for our Cold Bow Deadeye Ranger build. We have made some massive changes, introducing some new unique items that are allowing us to shift the tree around in drastic ways, reaching 30 million damage in one hit, being able to one-shot a 2-man maxed out level Zesh, and also basically having screen wide clear as well into doing T15, T16 juiced maps, abysses, breaches. Overall, the build is blasting, doing more damage than ever, having better clear than ever, and it just feels a ton of fun to play. Before I get into it, if you guys are enjoying these type of videos and you're liking what I'm doing here on the channel, if you consider hitting that like button and subscribing to the YouTube channel, that currently is the best way to support me, and it really does help out with the YouTube algorithm. I should also be live right now streaming on YouTube and Twitch. The link for that will be in the description as well as the comment section of the video. Alright, let's get right into it. For our build, we are still running a Gemini base. Now, I have heard that Obliterator bows are actually pretty good if you do want to look for those bases. Obviously, Geminis will give an additional arrow, but since we're running Nova projectiles for clearing now, since we have the damage to compensate on the less damage that Nova projectile support gives, Obliterator bows might be a really good alternative to look into, so you guys can keep that in mind when you're searching for a bow. But what we want to be looking for on a bow, though, is really high physical damage, so like high percent physical and flat physical damage. From there, we want to have crit chance and crit damage rolled onto it, and then after that, you can pretty much look for anything else like attack skills, projectile levels, cold damage added onto it, attack speed. I mean, anything like that is going to add more damage on top. For our quiver, we do want to look for a visceral quiver. Is this the best base type, as it will have crit chance naturally rolled onto it. From there, we do want to look for crit chance and crit damage, and then anything else on top of that, like increased damage with bow skills. Projectile speed is really good, as that will add a lot of overall increased damage, and we are going to go into feathered fletching if we do have projectile speed on the quiver. So again, it's basically like double increased damage there. And then after that, I mean, cold damage, attack speed, level to projectile skills, anything else that'll give you more damage on top of what I just said is ideally what we want to have. For our helmet, we are running the Constricting Command Viper Cap helmet now. This is a unique. Now, this will allow us basically to always be counted as being surrounded. So you want to look for a minimum, requires 4 or fewer enemies to be surrounded. It's ideal to have 5, since to be surrounded, you need to have 5 enemies within 3 meters of you. So if you have 5 or fewer enemies on the actual helmet, that means we'll always be counted as being surrounded. But even having 4 would only need 1, so even in boss fights and stuff, and you know, majority of the time you do have 1 enemy near you, so you would be counted as being surrounded as well. This allows us to pick up a lot of nodes on the tree to get more attack damage, more move speed, you know, more attack speed. It just allows a lot of increased damage on the tree. It's kind of like almost a mini deepest tower. It doesn't add that much damage compared to the deepest tower, but it still adds a lot overall to the tree. For the body armor, we're still running very high evasion, so like a strip strike vest is the best here. Just looking for reses to be res capped, and like I said, just really high evasion, so this way we can go on the spectral ward and get as much energy shield out of it as possible. You could also look for a hybrid, I guess. That would be really good as too, to get a lot more energy shield, obviously, but you would be severely nerfing the amount of evasion you get and the amount of, like, you know, evade chance and stuff like that, so do keep that in mind. For boots, I am going for full energy shield base because I do want to have the highest amount possible there, so we can get close to that 1,000 energy shield as possible. So again, we're looking for that, and then just reses to be res capped with move speed obviously is ideal for our boots. For our gloves, we're still running really high evasion rating base. You can run hybrid if you want to. Just look on both evasion and hybrid ES evasion and just see what is cheaper. From there, we do want to roll cold damage and critical damage bonus, etc. on the gloves. If you can get anything else that will add more flat damage, like, I mean, you could do physical, you could do attack speed, anything on top is going to be really nice here. As far as our belt, we are still running just a belt with tri-res and life, just to be able to be res capped, since we, you know, are losing some pieces and stuff like that and having to shift around. So our reses are kind of getting hit a little bit, so it is nice to have this. Obviously, if you can find a way to cap those reses without needing the belt, you can run like a Headhunter Ingenuity. You could run, I forget the name of it, but the new belt that allows you to have, like, you know, count as boots or count as helmets and throw like the runes and stuff in. So you can do that as well. But I just need it, obviously, for the reses to be res capped. As far as our jewelry, you still want to get a rare amulet with, you know, evasion, increased max energy shield, and spirit. Then from there, you need reses, roll those. And ideally, we do want to look for +3 level to projectile skills, but like +1, +2 levels is still really good, and we'll have more DPS on top of that. As far as our set ring, we do want to look for physical cold, increased cold damage, as this will give us the most overall damage to our skills. From there, it is nice to roll intelligence on there so we can, you know, be at that like 180 range without having to really go too much into the tree with it. So this way we can max out our level on our like elemental weakness and skills like that require intelligence. For our other ring, we are running the Pulsicron ring still. It just allows us to basically chill enemies and shatter them, meaning that our Herald of Ice can shatter and basically proc on every single enemy. They don't need to be frozen, so it adds a really good amount of increased clear to the build. And obviously the increased cold damage is kind of nice on top of that, so that's what I look for there, is just highest amount of cold damage when I'm buying one. For the back bar, we are still running the wand and effigy of cruelty. So for our wand, we do want to look for like increased lightning damage, increased chance to shock on it, increased crit chance. All that is good. We just want to try to get as much damage to our ball lightning as possible, so this way it'll have, you know, an increased damage base to actually apply shock to bosses much more easily. Like I said, the increased chance of shock and stuff rolled onto it is really nice, so just do keep that in mind. For the shield that we are running the effigy of cruelty. It's just nice because our crit hits with spells will apply stacks of critical weakness. It only has a 4-second duration, so we can't keep full uptime. I've tried using different skills like Orb of Storms and stuff, but that just cannot apply shock to bosses since we don't have, you know, a crap ton of lightning damage and pen and all that. So we do need ball lightning, so it kind of sucks there, but still, I mean, at least it's critical weakness, right, for a few seconds to give us more damage, but it's nothing really insane. Now we can get into the gems. So for called shots, we do want to have Sniper's Mark in here with charge for fusion, so this way whenever we do get a charge off of our Sniper's Mark, we have a 30% chance of getting an additional one. This just helps with frenzy generation. From there, I do have Freezing Mark in. This will allow us to have better clear with the explosions and stuff in Nova. So if you want to, if you are going in bosses and you want to have like 100% uptime of your Sniper's Mark, you could go ahead and remove Freezing Mark if you want to. But I am also having Magnified Area in there, so this way Freezing Mark obviously will have a bigger AoE explosion. Helps with clearing, obviously. And then I do have Mark for Death because I just didn't know what else to throw in. I figured throw this in. I guess it, you know, has some application, might help us with a little bit more damage, so why not do that? We're going into Ice Shot. We're going to be supporting that while we're clearing with Nova projectiles. This way it'll have, you know, 4 additional projectiles shoot out, hit the enemy, and have like that Nova, which is really nice as well. Cold Attunement for 25% of damage is extra cold. Ice Bite again for 25% of damage is extra cold. This basically will allow us to, you know, kind of double dip. And Ice Bite applies to all skills, which is really nice for like Freezing Salvo, right? Our Freezing Mark, our Herald of Ice, etc. Stoicism 2, this will give us 20% more damage, and obviously we're on Roa, so we're never dodge rolling or anything, so we always have that uptime. And then I do throw Fork in here for the additional clear. After we get through the gems, I will get into like what I swap in Ice Shot and stuff like that for the bossing setup. For Freezing Salvo, we do want to have Hourglass for 30% more damage. Then going into Freeze, obviously, for that increased freeze buildup, which is really nice since Freezing Salvo is our main way of freezing bosses. Concentrated Area for 30% more area damage. Cold Penetrate through the cold resistance more, so this way it applies more freeze buildup. And then Cold Attunement for 25% of damage is extra cold. Then we get into Elemental Weakness. This is our main thing we're going to apply to bosses to basically reduce their elemental reses, so we do more damage. We're going to be having Heightened Curse in it to have increased magnitude of the curse, meaning that it'll reduce the resistances even more. Going with Cursed Ground, this will turn it into like an AoE duration skill. Magnified Area, obviously give it a more area. And then Prolonged Duration, I have 35% more skill effect duration on it, meaning elemental weakness will last longer. Then we get into our Snipe. We're going to be supporting that with Garkin's Resolve. This is going to actually super juice the DPS. So what Garkin's Resolve does, it allows us to basically get twice critical hits, meaning that we basically roll twice to see if we crit. And if either roll succeeds, we'll just have a normal crit with normal crit damage. But if we hit both rolls and both of them succeed, that means we'll crit the enemy, but we get double the amount of crit damage, which is insane. From there, we go Minion Pack for 35% more damage. And since we're only using the skill once, right, we are not really worried about removing the life off our minion. For Extend for 30% more crit damage bonus. Again, we want to have our crit damage high as possible, so this way once we do hit those twice crits, that damage gets doubled, right? So it's a bigger value. Inevitable Critical, because this allows our crit chance to be insanely high, and it does kind of snapshot with Barrage, so it adds a lot more crit chance overall. And then I am throwing Blindside in here now. We are going to be blinding the enemy. We do have stuff on the tree for increased crit chance against blinded enemies, etc. So we do want to have this on, and I mean 15% more crit chance and 15% more crit damage obviously is really nice. Then we get into our Barrage. Obviously you're going with Second Wind 3, so this way we can just have 2 uses of it, which is kind of nice. Heightened Charges, so this way we have a 20% chance for consuming the charges for it to be doubled. And then Perpetual Charge, obviously, to have a 25% chance to not remove charges, but still count as using them on Barrage to get like a free use, which is kind of nice. Then we get into Ball Lightning as our main way of shocking the enemy. We want to go ahead with Shock on it to have 100% more chance to shock. Lasting Shock for 100% increased shock duration. Considered Casting to have more damage onto the skill, which allows it to apply shock more easily since it's doing more damage per hit. Lightning penetration, so this way it'll have 30% lightning pen, again allows it to shock more easily. And then finally overcharge to have 15% increased magnitude of shocks once we inflict it with ball lightning. Then we get into our reservations. Basically we're going to go Roa mount with meat shield to have less damage taken, going with elemental army obviously for more elemental resistances on our Roa, +1 level of supported minion skills with mini master obviously to increase the level of Roa, and then finally hawking minion since we do have the spirit to actually go ahead and give it gigantic, which gives it more life and stuff like that. Then we're going to do Herald of Ice. We're going to be supporting that with overreach obviously for 40% increased area of effect to make the explosions of Herald Ice bigger, help with clearing right elemental armament, so this way it's 25% more attack elemental damage on there. Cold attunement for 25% damage is extra cold, and then cold pen obviously this way it'll pen through that cold resistance even more, meaning more damage and stuff like that. Then we get into Ghost Dance. Since we are running energy shield, this basically will make it to where once we get a hit we will have 6% of our evasion added back as energy shield, which obviously is really nice, and it allows us to, you know, get basically almost our full energy shield back on just taking a hit, which is really good survivability. The only thing we support that with is just compressed duration to have less skill effect duration and stuff like that on it. Now I will say if we are bossing, what I do is I turn Ghost Dance off and I'll turn Combat Frenzy back on. So this way it allows us to have all our auras without having to get Spirit on our chest armor and stuff like that. But again, if you wanted to run everything, you could just try to roll Spirit on your body armor. But that's what I do, and then if we're not bossing, just turn off Combat Frenzy, put Ghost Dance back on. And the only two kind of skill gems that you could potentially swap is I will swap Nova Projectiles for Blind 2 on Ice Shot, just so the enemy's 100% blinded all the time, so we get all that increase and stuff on Snipe and from our tree, right? And then if you really wanted the extra damage, what you could do is swap Elemental Armament instead of Fork on Ice Shot. Now we can get into the tree. So for the Ascendancy, we're still going to be going into Called Shots, so we can obviously get the skill, have an auto mark aura, which is really nice quality of life stuff. Then a Gathering Winds to get Tailwind, obviously for the increased evasion and all that. Then we're going into Avidity for a chance to gain an additional Frenzy Charge when we gain one. And then finally Throwing Chase to have a 50% chance that when we consume Frenzy Charges with Barrage, it'll have a chance of doubling them, which is needed for us to actually one-shot a 2-man max out level session, stuff like that. As far as the skill tree, it did get shifted drastically, so we're going to be taking these travel nodes up, going in with one just in the Hone Instincts to get the increased projectile attack speed, all that good junk. Then we're going to be coming up obviously and kind of going into top monk side, going into Mindful Awareness to have the increased evasion and max energy shield, which is really good for survivability. Obviously Flow Like Water and stuff like that into Crushing Wave. This is 36% increased damage if we crit in the past 8 seconds, which we always are, and these 2 crit chance nodes are nice. Then going to be going down and going up into this Jewel Socket, and I'll get into all the jewels after the tree. Going up obviously into True Strike still for the increased crit chance and dex, for the Jugular for the increased crit damage and intelligence, and damage on critical nodes up here for the increased critical damage if we've crit recently, which we always are, so just a ton of increased damage. From there, obviously, we're still going up and taking Spectral Ward for the increased max energy shield per evasion rating, which allows our body armor to give us a lot of ES since it's just pure evasion. From there, we're heading down actually and going to be going down into the Master Fletching node still, getting obviously that increased bonuses gained from our equipped quiver, into Escape Velocity now for the increased movement speed and evasion rating, all that, which is really good. Going into Cook still, the increased crit damage here, even though that it does reduce global defenses, is just too good to pass up on since we do want to stack crit damage. Still going down into Stand and Deliver, the increased again crit damage within 2 meters and increased projectile damage. Since we kind of want to like shock on the enemy and be in his face since we do freeze him with Snipe. This is just so much increased damage for 3 points that there's no reason not to take it. We are now taking Feathered Fletching obviously because we can now apply that projectile speed since we do have it on our quiver. That'll apply to damage with bows, so basically we're double dipping into that and getting a lot of increased damage. Going into Coming Calamity, obviously for the increased cold damage since we are affected by Herald of Ice. Coming up and going with Fever, since we do need this for the max frenzy charges. This obviously is 2 additional attacks. If we double, it's 4. So we're basically getting almost double the attacks from just base of the frenzy charges, which is max of 3. So this is needed to be able to one-shot a 2-man maxed out level sesh. Obviously from there, we're still going into Heart Stopping for the increased intelligence and crit chance, going in with Heart Breaking for the increased strength and crit damage, and then Struck Through for the 1% crit chance to the base. We're going to be just going into Dizzying Hits for the increased crit chance. This is really good for just consistent critting, obviously. I mean, this is 40%, the previous node is 15%, right? So it's just a lot of increased crit chance against dazed enemies, and we have like a 15% chance to daze them. Then from there, we're actually going to be going all the way down at the bottom line of the tree, and we're going to be going into all these surround nodes. Since, like I said, we do have the helmet now to count as surrounded constantly, we do want to get these nodes. So we'll be heading up, taking this jewel socket, and then going into throw a battle. 20% increased attack speed all surrounded, and nodes going into it is like 50% increased attack damage, which is really good. Then we'll be going down, getting this jewel socket, and then going into these nodes. Again, tactical retreat, 10% increased move speed all surrounded. These 3 nodes, again, are all 25% increased damage while surrounded. And then Frantic Fighters, 100% increased damage while surrounded. So, like, you're getting an insane amount of increased attack damage. You're going to get a lot of overall damage added because of that. And it's just super good to actually be running the unique helmet and going into these nodes. That's why we kind of shifted the tree drastically to get down into here. And it results in much more damage because of that. I did forget to go into weapon set 2 and stuff like that, but we do want to weapon set 2 into like still Unbound Forces for increased magnitude of shock, General Electric, Harmonic Generator, again for increased magnitude of shock and increased chance to shock. And then finally, we'll be going down into Frazzled for the increased magnitude of shock inflict and increased shock duration and stuff like that. As for the jewels we're running, we are running a controlled Metamorphosis with a medium large ring. Try to get one with the lowest chaos resistant all elemental res possible. And this is just going to allow us to take a distracted target for 50% increased chance against blinded enemies. I think eventually want to go into Kite Runner and stuff like that. But for right now, I'm just going into distracted target. Then we're going to be running a just Time Lost Sapphire here. You could run a Time Lost Emerald if you want to, or like an Against the Darkness here. I just run a Time Lost Sapphire because this gives us crit chance still and increased freeze build up, which is really nice. And allows us to obviously put that and freeze bosses really quickly because of that. The other one we are running is a From Nothing Diamond with Zealot's Oath. Since this will allow us to sock in anything within this blue range, we're able to get all this increased attack damage, which is really nice. So that's why I went ahead and did that. And then if we go down, the other one I'm running is a Megalomaniac with Desensitization. This just allows us to get 25% increased crit damage bonus, and hits against us have 25% reduced crit damage bonus. Now there probably is better ones out there, right? But I haven't found them. I'm going to be looking through them and stuff like that. So if this changes, I will update it on the Mobilytics guide and stuff like that. And then the other 2 that we are running is just a normal rare emerald. This one is pretty bad actually. You would ideally want to get crit damage, crit chance, and just anything else like increased damage with bows, projectile damage, I mean anything like that, right? But this is still decent just for the crit damage. And then we are running a Heart of the Well, which just damage is extra cold, increased crit damage bonus, and increased damage while your companion is in your presence. I think ideally you would get like damage is extra cold, damage is extra lightning if you can. Just way we can double dip on that extra damage. But this one is still fine and does add a pretty good amount of increased damage overall. And that pretty much covers it for the jewels. That's pretty much it for this updated video. Like I said, the build's feeling overall fantastic, having screen wide clear basically with the new Nova projectiles and stuff socketed on Ice Shot. Have been able to one-shot, you know, a 2-man max at level Zesh doing like 30 million damage in one hit, which is insane. As always, if you guys did enjoy this video or you like what I'm doing on my channel, if you consider hitting that like and subscribe button, this helps me out immensely, and currently it is the best way to support me. Plus it helps with the YouTube algorithm. I should also be live right now on YouTube and Twitch streaming, so if you guys want to come check that out, the link for that will be in the description as well as the comment section of the video. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day or night depending on when you're watching the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.